Hello, in this video we are going to discuss the learning activity for this week. If you've already started reading the textbook chapter for this week or looked at our other activities for the week, such as our discussion boards, you'll quickly notice that there is a heavy focus on theory. This is not by chance. Theory is a fundamental part of sociology, and in fact, as addressed in the other video, in every chapter the textbook will come back and address how do the major paradigms, how do the major theories in sociology address that given issue, be it culture, socialization, deviance, race, etc. The three major theories, of course, are structural functionalism, social conflict, and symbolic interaction. In this learning activity, you are going to fill in this chart based on those three theories. Again, keep in mind that these go by different names. They're oftentimes called the three major theories, the three major paradigms, or the three perspectives. Either way, they refer to these three right here. The chart is fairly straightforward. You're going to match up the section titles and fill in the blank. So, structural functionalism, methodological framework. What approach does this theory take? Is it micro or macro? But don't just write if it's micro or macro. Also tell me why it's micro or macro. Likewise, social conflict theory. Simply line it up. The framework, social conflict, is a theory micro or macro, and why? Again, you must specify why. What about the theory? What about their focus? What about what they look at makes them micro or macro? And of course, this is addressed in your textbook. Likewise, symbolic interaction, micro or macro, and why. Sociologist. This is simply a list of the sociologists that believe in these theories. You don't need to explain why they fit in these categories, but simply list their name. Fairly straightforward. The heart of this assignment, though, is this column here, key ideas. What do these theories believe? What about this theory makes them the theory? So structural functionalists. What do all structural functionalists believe? What key ideas hold them together? This is not just key terms, but rather key ideas. So yes, structural functionalists do believe in manifest functions, but that's not really a key idea. That's more of a key term. The key idea is, what do they believe about manifest functions? After all, social conflict theorists also recognize manifest functions, but they believe something very different about them. So key ideas, again, is not just key terms. It's key beliefs, core concepts. What do all structural functions believe? Likewise, conflict theorists. What do all social conflict theorists believe? And there's many branches of conflict theory. Some focus on race, some focus on gender, some focus on economic inequality. But regardless of what the focus is, what do all social conflict theorists believe? What are their key ideas? And again, this is addressed in detail in the textbook, in the required videos, as well as in the supplemental videos. Likewise, symbolic interactionists, yes, you will want to address the key terms, but also their key ideas. This section will require quite a bit of detail. You, of course, can type directly into the document. Please be sure to save it as a Microsoft Word document. If you choose to print this out and handwrite it, you can do that. Some folks work better with writing by hand, but when you scan it, be sure to scan it as a PDF. Blackboard can open and read Microsoft Word and PDF. It does not do well with other types of programs. Again, key ideas. This is the heart of the assignment, so you will want a lot of detail here. If you skim on this section, it's going to affect the other sections, as we'll see shortly. critiques. What are the flaws of this theory? This is not what you don't like about the theory, but rather what are the flaws of the theory? What does the theory get wrong? What do they miss? There's two ways of looking at this. One way is look at the key ideas. You have the key idea in this column. So are there any key ideas that are incorrect? If so, that's a critique. It's not do we not like the key idea, but can we prove that the key idea is incorrect? Can we prove that an assumption that they make is incorrect? That's one way to look at critiques. Another way is what do they miss? What do they fail to address? So for example, social conflict theory. There's many key ideas, and I'll give you one right now. One key idea is they believe in conflict. They believe society is characterized by competing interests. A critique would not be conflict is bad. That's not a critique. If you agree conflict is bad, you actually agree with social conflict theory because they believe conflict is bad. They study conflict. They believe there's conflict in the world, but they don't like it. It's simply what they study. The critique would be, can we prove that key idea wrong? The key idea is the assumption that we have competing interests. Can we prove that wrong? That would be the critique. Again, a critique is not what we don't like about the theory. A critique is what does a theory get wrong and what does a theory miss? What do they fail to study? Again, simply match it up. Symbolic to action, key ideas, symbolic to action, critiques. What are the flaws of the theory? What do they fail to look at? These first four columns, the framework, sociologist, key ideas, and critiques, those are all already in the textbook for you, for the most part. They're in the textbook and in the videos. You will, of course, want to explain your answers in your own words, but all that is given for you, and you might have to just add a little bit more detail based on your understanding. The last two columns, however, views on divorce and views on religion, these are not in the textbook. They are not discussed in the videos. This is something you will do on your own. These are application sections. So based on the key ideas, again, you need a detailed section here. Based on what you know about the theory, based on the key ideas, how do you think they would view divorce? Apply their beliefs, apply the key ideas to divorce. Would they like divorce? Would they dislike divorce? And most importantly, why? How do their key ideas relate to divorce? If there's 5 key ideas, well then relate those 5 key ideas to divorce. How would they analyze divorce? Based on their key ideas. Likewise with religion. Based on their key ideas, and based really on how they look at society on their framework, how would they view religion? Yes, you do want to tell me do they like religion or dislike religion, but it's more than that. You want to tell me why, based on the key ideas, would they like it or dislike it. Likewise, divorce and social conflict theory. Apply their key ideas. How do you think they would view divorce? How do you think they would view religion? Symbolic attraction. How do you think they would view divorce? How do you think they would view religion? Based on their key ideas and based really on how they analyze society. Now, given the fact that these last 2 columns are not in the book, that they're application, I don't expect a completely 100% perfect answer. What I'm looking for is, are you putting in sincere effort and detail in trying to utilize the sociological imagination in order to analyze these concepts of divorce and religion using these theories? The due date for this assignment is, of course, on Blackboard. A common question that I oftentimes get is, well, what is the right answer? I'm obviously not going to give you that just yet because you need to complete the assignment, but what I will do is I'm also going to fill out this chart myself. Once the assignment is due, you have 5 days to turn it in late for a penalty, of course, and once those 5 days are over, no more late assignments are accepted. At that point, I will post on Blackboard my completed version of this. That way, if there's something you missed, well, it's okay, because then you could look at my completed version and see what you missed, see what more detail needs to be there. That doesn't mean you rely solely on my version. You want to make sure that the submission you make is as detailed and as complete as possible so that you can earn the best grade that you can earn. Of course, like we said, this must be submitted as a Microsoft Word document, and you can type in this document. If you are getting detailed and it pushes columns down, that's fine. Just be sure to format so that it makes sense. If you prefer to handwrite it, that's fine. Print it out, write it by hand, and then scan it as a PDF. When saving this chart, please be sure to save it with a particular file name. Save it as your last name and paradigm chart. So it's right there. Last name _ paradigm chart. It just makes it a little bit easier to keep track of the various submissions. That way, let's say Blackboard can't read it and I need to try to figure out a way to view it myself, I can keep track of whose chart is whose. Okay. And with that, we're done with this learning activity, or at least we're done explaining this learning activity. If you have any questions, of course, please let me know. Keep in mind that you have roughly 2 weeks to complete this assignment, so you will want to be as detailed as possible. And as with any assignment, you don't simply earn points for submitting the assignment, you earn points for the successful completion of it. And with this assignment, that truly does mean detail. And keep in mind that our assignments are in a particular order for a reason. Completing the worksheet, the readings, the required videos, the discussion board, the quiz, that will all help you prepare for completing this worksheet in the proper amount of detail. And with that, we'll end the video. I look forward to seeing everyone's completed chart. And keep in mind that I will post my own completed chart once the deadline for submissions has closed.